47-year-old Malik Turner steps into Judge Frank Caprio's courtroom carrying a pain no one can measure. He isn't here to defend a ticket. He isn't here to beg for mercy. He is here because a police officer labeled him a criminal before he spoke a single word. And now, after months of fear, anger, and silence, he wants justice. Malik Turner is a delivery driver, a father of two, and a man who has spent his entire life avoiding trouble. But one stormy night, an officer stops him, treats him like a suspect, and accuses him of crimes he never committed. Malik files a lawsuit, hoping someone, anyone, will listen. But he never expects the case to land in the hands of Judge Frank Caprio. As Malik stands in the courtroom, trembling but determined, he prepares to speak the truth. Yet one question hangs heavy in the air: how can a single man fight a system that refuses to see him as human? Malik Turner enters Judge Frank Caprio's courtroom with shoulders tense, breath held tight, and a folder of documents pressed against his chest. He carries the weight of everything that happened on that freezing December night. Inside his mind, a storm churns: fear, frustration, and the deep memory of a voice that treated him as if he were less than human. The courtroom's silence wraps around him, yet he feels every heartbeat louder than the last. He introduces himself with a cracked voice. He explains he is a delivery driver who works long hours to support his two children. He speaks slowly, carefully choosing each word, as if he is afraid the wrong phrase might somehow erase his humanity again. He recounts the first moments of the police stop. The officer approaches with hostility, accusing him of weaving through lanes and driving erratically, even though Malik insists he had been driving under the speed limit. Then comes the moment that still haunts him. The officer demands he step out of the car with his hands up. Malik follows every instruction, but the officer treats him as if danger flows through his blood. Malik tells the courtroom about the insults, the cold tone, the way the officer's hand never left the holster. He remembers asking why he was being treated this way, and the officer responds with words that cut deeper than any ticket ever could. Malik repeats those words aloud: "People like you always lie." The courtroom air thickens. Some jurors shift in their seats. Judge Caprio remains quiet, allowing Malik to release years of bottled pain. Malik explains that he had no weapons, no record, and no reason to be treated like a threat. Yet he was searched, pushed against his car, and made to feel like the world saw him as the problem. His kids cried when he came home late that night, shaken and humiliated. He remembers standing in the living room, wondering how he would ever explain this to them. Now he stands here, not just seeking justice, but trying to reclaim the dignity that officers stripped from him. He tells Judge Caprio that filing the lawsuit wasn't about revenge. It was about telling the truth. But a question lingers in the air like a silent echo: how many times must a man prove he is innocent before someone finally believes him? Malik takes a deep breath, emotion trembling on the edge of his voice. He is ready to share the next piece of his story, the one that changes everything. Because that officer didn't just disrespect him. He also claimed there was undeniable proof of Malik's guilt. Before Judge Caprio responds, the courtroom leans into the quiet tension. But what happened next left the entire courtroom speechless. Malik Turner steadies himself, opens the worn folder in his hands, and prepares to reveal the part of the story that kept him awake for months. His voice grows firmer as he explains that the officer didn't just accuse him of reckless driving. The officer later claimed Malik nearly struck a pedestrian, ran a stop sign, and refused to cooperate. All allegations, Malik insists, never happened. He tells the courtroom that after the encounter, he received citations filled with details that didn't match reality. Malik looks toward Judge Caprio and explains that the most painful part wasn't the fines. It was the officer's written statement, full of assumptions and cruel language that painted him as an unpredictable threat. Malik knew he had to fight back. But how does a father with limited money and no legal connections challenge the words of someone in uniform? Malik continues by revealing that he spent weeks gathering every scrap of information he could. He pulls out phone records showing he wasn't distracted. He presents delivery logs proving he was traveling his assigned route at a safe speed. He even provides a voice recording from a store manager he had just dropped a package to, confirming Malik was calm and professional moments before the stop. The judge listens in respectful silence. Then Malik mentions something that makes several people in the courtroom lean forward. A neighbor who witnessed the stop contacted him days later. The woman said she had overheard the officer yelling at Malik without cause, and she believed something felt wrong. Malik explains that her statement changed everything. Her words weren't dramatic or emotional. They were simple, truthful observations from someone who had nothing to gain. Malik reads her testimony aloud, and each sentence lands like a stone on the courtroom floor. The neighbor describes Malik standing still with his hands raised, while the officer's voice grew louder and harsher. She describes Malik's calm responses, his patience, and his confusion. She even states that at no point did Malik resist. Her testimony directly contradicts the officer's entire report. A heavy silence falls as Malik closes the folder. He admits that even with all this evidence, he still feared no one would believe him. The system felt too big, the officer too powerful, and his own voice too small. Yet he dared to hope. And as the truth echoes through the courtroom, a fragile shift begins, one that feels like the first crack in a long, dark wall. But a question now floats through the room. If this evidence is real, what else has been hidden beneath the officer's accusations? Malik steps back, his hands trembling as he waits for Judge Caprio's reaction. The next moment will determine whether his story continues or collapses under doubt. But what came next pushed Malik to the emotional breaking point. Malik Turner stands frozen after sharing the evidence, waiting for judgment to fall like a hammer. But instead of responding, Judge Frank Caprio gently invites him to continue. Malik exhales as if releasing years of buried fear, then steps forward again. This time, he doesn't hold the folder, he holds his heart. He speaks about the days after the incident, the way he avoided delivering to certain neighborhoods, the way he jumped at sirens, the way he replayed the officer's words at night until they carved themselves into his mind. He tells the courtroom that his children noticed his silence. His daughter asked if he had done something wrong, and Malik had no answer. Shame took root where confidence once lived. Then Malik reveals something he hasn't told anyone outside his family. The lawsuit wasn't his idea. It was his son's. His teenage boy looked at him one night and said, "Dad, nobody should treat you like that. You always tell us to stand up when something's wrong, so why won't you stand up now?" Those words pierced him. Malik explains that he never wanted his children to learn bravery through his suffering. He wanted to teach them through his strength. The courtroom listens as Malik's voice trembles. He talks about the moment he finally decided to fight back. It wasn't anger. It wasn't revenge. It was the realization that silence allows injustice to grow roots. He realized that if he didn't speak now, his children might believe that unfairness is normal, that cruelty is acceptable, that their father deserved the humiliation forced on him. Malik refuses to let that become their truth. As he continues, the emotion builds like a rising tide. He explains how the officer's actions followed him everywhere, not just in memory, but in the way people looked at him afterward. He felt smaller. He felt judged before he opened his mouth. He felt like one mistake from losing the job that keeps his family afloat. And the hardest part? Pretending he was fine, pretending the words didn't hurt, pretending nothing was wrong. Malik pauses, voice cracking. He admits that filing the lawsuit terrified him. What if no one believed him? What if the officer won? What if he made everything worse for his children? Yet he moved forward because hope is sometimes the only weapon a man has left. And in that moment, he asks a question that hangs heavy in the air. How long can a man carry the weight of false judgment before something inside him breaks? A tear rolls down his cheek as he whispers that he isn't here to destroy anyone's life, only to reclaim his own. His knees nearly buckle under the pressure of telling his story so openly. The courtroom feels the shift. This isn't just a legal case anymore. It's a human soul trying to heal in plain sight. Malik wipes his face, steadies himself, and takes a deep breath. The next words he speaks carry a tremor of courage. He says he believes Judge Caprio is the only person who has ever truly listened. The judge nods softly, absorbing every syllable. And as the tension tightens, Malik ends his testimony with a quiet plea for fairness, dignity, and truth. Hit that subscribe button if stories like this remind you how powerful honesty can be. But Judge Caprio's response was something no one in the courtroom could have predicted. Judge Frank Caprio sits forward, hands folded, eyes steady on Malik Turner, as if weighing not just evidence, but the soul of the man before him. The courtroom settles into a deep silence. Then Caprio begins speaking with a voice calm enough to soften stone. He tells Malik that courage is rarely loud. It is often the quiet decision to speak the truth when silence seems safer. Malik's shoulders ease as the judge acknowledges the pain he carried into this room. Judge Caprio explains that fairness is not a favor, but a responsibility. He reminds everyone present that justice is not measured by uniforms, titles, or power. It is measured by truth. He states that every person who stands before him deserves the same dignity, whether they drive a BMW or a battered delivery van. The words strike the courtroom like a steady heartbeat, each sentence echoing with quiet force. Then Judge Caprio addresses the allegations directly. He says that evidence must speak louder than assumptions. He reviews Malik's logs, the witness statement, and the timeline that contradicts the officer's claims. The judge's tone hardens, not with anger, but with conviction. He states that when stories conflict, integrity becomes the deciding voice. And Malik's honesty has been consistent since the moment he stepped into the courtroom. Malik listens, breath trembling, as the judge goes deeper. Judge Caprio talks about the deeper wound created when someone in authority misuses the trust placed in them. He says that such actions do more than harm one man. They damage the bond between communities and the people meant to protect them. The courtroom shifts uncomfortably. Some nod, others fold their arms, but every person feels the gravity of the moment. Then the judge pauses. He looks at Malik, and his voice softens. He says that forgiveness is powerful, but so is accountability. He explains that justice does not come from punishing a person out of anger, but from revealing the truth so healing can begin. And he asks the courtroom a question that strikes like thunder. How can society ever grow stronger if those who uphold the law are not held to the same standard they enforce? Malik's eyes fill as Judge Caprio speaks about his children. He tells Malik that they will learn more from this moment than from any lecture on courage. They will see a father who faced fear, spoke truth, and demanded fairness, not with rage, but with dignity. The atmosphere feels charged, as if the room itself waits for the judge's final conclusion. Malik grips the edge of the podium, heart racing, every muscle tight with anticipation. But what Judge Caprio reveals next turns the entire courtroom upside down. Judge Frank Caprio takes a slow breath before revealing what he discovered during his private review of the case. He explains that several months earlier, a complaint was filed against the same officer by another resident who described nearly identical treatment. The judge states plainly that the pattern is too strong to ignore. Malik's eyes widen. The courtroom shifts. A ripple of shock moves through the room. Judge Caprio continues by saying he reached out to Internal Affairs for clarification. What he received stunned even him. The officer in question had already been placed under investigation for misconduct, but the details were never publicly disclosed. The judge explains that, while not all allegations are proof, the consistency of events paints a troubling picture. He then tells Malik something that nearly brings the man to his knees. The officer has officially admitted that parts of his report may have been inaccurate. Malik's breath catches in his throat. His hands cover his mouth as if holding in years of pain and relief all at once. Judge Caprio declares that Malik's case will move forward with full legal support. He rules that Malik's citations are dismissed, his record cleared, and his rights fully restored. The lawsuit will be formally acknowledged, and an independent review will be launched to address the officer's conduct. For a moment, Malik cannot speak. His entire world shifts, and he feels something he hasn't felt since that terrible night: dignity. The courtroom watches as gratitude pours from him in quiet, trembling breaths. He says that his only wish was to be treated like a human being. Judge Caprio responds that justice begins the moment someone refuses to stay silent. Then something unexpected happens. The judge asks if Malik would accept a restorative meeting with the officer. Should the officer agree? To create understanding instead of bitterness. Malik hesitates, but then he nods. He says healing is the only path he wants for himself and his children. The courtroom fills with an emotion that words struggle to hold. A man who was treated like a suspect now stands taller than he ever has. And in that moment, Judge Caprio offers the final piece of the miracle, a message directly to Malik's children. He tells them their father is a brave man, a strong man, and a man whose voice changed the course of a system that once tried to silence him. Malik cries openly, no longer ashamed of the tears that prove he survived something that tried to break him. Drop a comment below if you believe every person deserves respect, no matter what they look like or where they come from. As the courtroom begins to settle, a single question rises like a quiet spark. What kind of world could we build if every person stood up for truth the way Malik just did? Malik walks out with his head high, knowing he reclaimed his story, his dignity, and his hope. The judge's ruling didn't just give him justice, it gave him back his future. Hit that subscribe button if you believe stories like this remind us why compassion still matters. But even after the judge's powerful decision, Malik's journey wasn't over yet. Malik Turner leaves the courtroom with a strength he hasn't felt in years. His story began with fear, humiliation, and hopelessness, but it ended with truth, courage, and a judge who refused to look away. Malik's children watched a man fight for his dignity. The officer who mistreated him faced accountability, and every person who heard Malik speak was reminded that justice is not an idea. It is a choice. This case was never just about tickets or accusations. It was about a man who refused to accept a label he did not deserve. It was about a father protecting his family from a world that tried to make him small. And it was about the rare kind of leadership that lifts people up instead of tearing them down. Stories like Malik's remind us that healing begins when someone listens, and change begins when someone cares. If this powerful journey touched you, like the video, hit that subscribe button, tap the notification bell, and share this story so more people can feel its impact.